Spring statement. Who knows more about money? You know a lot more about money than the Chancellor of the Exchequer. That's for sure, Jasmine Birtles.
It's a pretty low bar, isn't it?
I think that's a very good point, actually. Somebody made the point, said, well, as she used to be in, what was it, customer service.
Yes. Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom, and thank you, Tatiana. We've got some guests coming in the studio this morning. It's a harrowing story. As a mum, I mean, it's harrowing if you're a parent or not, of a little girl, Violet, who was hit by a driver on a crossing when she was crossing with her grandmother, and she lost her life. She was 4 years old. Violet Grace Ewan and her parents are part of a campaign group now that are asking for tougher sentences for people who commit awful crimes like this, because the person who hit their daughter got 9 years, served half.
Low life doesn't do him justice. He was in a stolen car and he was driving at 83 miles an hour and a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit. And, of course, he fled the scene and even managed to live in Holland, but the police eventually got him. So if you get a 9-year sentence, you do 4.5. So that's not even a year for every year that little girl lived on this planet.
So the parents are going to be here anyway in just a minute. We'll have that conversation, don't miss it. Now, Debbie has said if somebody who is not from this country has broken the law and they have to go to prison, they should be sent back to where they came from originally to do the time and pay that country. It would be cheaper. We at least contribute towards it. It'd be cheaper. Plus, you wouldn't have to deport. You would be already home. I bet that would cut crime down. And, yeah, a lot of you agreeing on that. That was obviously this debate inspired by this Labour MP, Johnny Brash, saying that we should just deport people back to their country.
If we'd had a vote on that, I reckon it would have been 97% deport them.
But why will no political party ever run on that ticket? Reform might, but nobody else would.
Well, they've had plenty of chances. I mean, Robert Jenrick has talked about it, who's the Shadow Justice Secretary.
Yeah.
But it's not happened. And just to remind you, 10,600 of our prison population is foreign, £51,000 a year for each prisoner. That's what it costs you, the taxpayer.
And Paula says the only thing the government is smashing is the economy of this country. Now we're edging even closer to that spring statement. This morning it's going to be 12:30, just over an hour and 20 minutes' time.
So the Chancellor is going to announce cuts to the welfare bill, which I think are probably what we need, because the public spending on welfare has soared £20 billion since the pandemic.
But defence spending is apparently set to get a boost. Let's talk to conversation we need to have. We don't have endless pots of money. We don't have endless prison cells. We need to make a decision what is right and best for this country.
And Mike Power is right. There are 10,600 foreign criminals in our prisons. Our prisons are overcrowded. This government is letting prisoners out too soon, too early, and it's £52,000 per prisoner per year.
Yeah, it's a lot. Up next, Prince Harry's shock. Angela has said, I'm going for a walk before the doom and gloom begins, which, I mean, I think she means a spring statement. We're looking forward to this spring statement, aren't we?
Yeah.
Angela, I hope you've kept us on the radio when you've gone for a walk on your phone. What else have you been saying? Here we go. Sorry. Let me just...
Well, how long should
reload.
be on her feet? Probably 45 minutes.
Oh, really? That long?
Yeah. She's... and then there'll be a response from Mel Stride, the Shadow Chancellor. The Lib Dems will speak too. And, of course, then, this afternoon, unusually, she's doing a press conference, the Chancellor.
Oh, is she?
Quite unusual.
Taking questions?
Yeah, because I think she's so on the defensive.
That's
and
bold.
I think she'll hope that what is said in the press conference may actually then lead the bulletins at 6 o'clock tonight. Because I think, because we know that she's not very good at the dispatch box. She sounds flat and robotic, so she'll be hoping that she performs better at the press conference.
And she tends to perform better, actually, when she's responding to questions. So they're probably playing to her strengths a little bit there.
Yeah. So, and coming up, the Chancellor, we're talking about the Chancellor should be putting the final touches to that.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Bev until midday. It's Spring Statement Day. What do you mean you don't care?
I bet
it's
you're
very important.
So excited by it.
I like spring. Not so keen on statements.
Rachel Robot Reeves, we're going to have an hour of her robotic
She's
tones.
the Chancellor of the Exchequer.
She just speaks robotically, as did Liz Truss, as does the Prime Minister. Well, in fact, the Prime Minister to me sounds like he's a constipated Dalek. And to think he had a voice coach, I'd want my money back.
Aren't they just being incredibly careful about what they say because they're worried about newspapers like yours stitching them up if they say the wrong thing?
I just think delivery is important. Politicians have to project, and if they want to convince, they need to be good communicators. I'm afraid a lot of our leading politicians are not great communicators. I don't think Kemi Badenoch was particularly great either.
No.
While we're at it,
Anyway, moving on. Labour MP Jonathan Brash has said that the government...
Great name, isn't it?
It's a great name. Johnny Brash should exercise its right to send foreign criminals back home.
Now, he's the first Labour MP to say this, because what he says, it should be legitimate to deport the people and the government should ignore the European Court of Human Rights. So we're asking, is he right?
To debate this, we are joined now by journalist at the European Conservative, Dave Atherton, and human rights lawyer, Shoa.
You'll never find me in the same shop as them.
Gentlemen, if you weren't looking forward to this spring statement, you might be now after that.
Yes, very lively,
They will be back in the next hour. There's also a story I want to talk about, these Amazon Fresh stores, which is a fascinating change on our high street, because they're not taking off. I think it's good news.
Good. Yeah. Don't use them.
Here are your headlines with Tatiana Sanchez. Sorry we're late, Tatiana. Welcome back to Britain's newsroom, live across the UK on Spring Statement Day at 12:30.
So, who better to talk about the Spring Statement and where we are financially, because this Spring Statement is all about reviewing where we are post-budget. The great founder of Money Magpie, Jasmine Birtles. She is the Chancellor that was going to create growth, growth, growth.
Yeah.
You're the expert. It's not happened.
No, it really
The
hasn't.
opposite. I think when they see that image of it just looks, we look weak and impotent, and we see hundreds of young men. They're all young men, aren't they?
I know.
In their 30s, economic migrants taking the mick.
Compared to what Trump is doing in America. Now, still to come, a huge...
She's talking about, she's bearing the issues about poor governance, weak executive management, abuse of power, bullying, harassment, misogyny, misogynoir, which is anti-black women, and the cover-up that ensued. She's really, really blown the whistle. I mean, I don't know who's in the right here, but she's thrown the flipping kitchen sink at them.
Apparently so. Get in touch at home, won't you? gnews.com/your say. We said, what would Rachel Reeves be doing this morning before the Spring Statement? And John has said Rachel's having a freebie breakfast before she goes to the House of Commons. Anyway, keep your messages coming. We're going to read them. But still to come this morning, Labour have set a new record.
Where the economy is doing, and it's an update on the November budget.
OK.
So it will not include tax rises.
Oh, good.
And it will not include spending commitments. However, it might include cuts in spending.
Oh, so it's like a bad budget where they just take
Whereas the
things
budget
away.
is the annual statement where you get spending and taxation proposals and forecasts. But it's going to be grim because her budget, in my view, has depressed the economy. It's caused... I mean, there's a slight drop in inflation today, but growth is nowhere to be seen.
It's not even in your view. I mean, that's all empirically
it's
provable, isn't it? That the budget has not... The economy hasn't grown. The inflation slight dip today, she'll be making a lot of that.
She shouldn't make much of it because the target is 2%.
Yeah.
And it had gone down to 2% under the Tories.
I think part of the fun of this Spring Statement today is going to be to see how she can make something good out of this bad situation. I nearly used a proverbial metaphor there about polishing something. But she has to somehow defend herself, defend the track record of the last 6 months, and that is going to be very difficult to do.
And she's also, the setback for her, the Office of Budget Responsibility, an independent organisation set up by George Osborne back in 2010 when he was Chancellor, has published its own detailed assessment of her what she says is the $5 billion savings she's going to realise. They say her figures are wrong.
$5 billion is nothing, though, is it?
But it'll only raise $3 billion. So she's going to have to bring forward more savings today. And if you're on incapacity benefit, I'm sorry to tell you, it's going to be frozen.
And as we said yesterday, socialism does not account for psychology.
No.
Because everybody that's got any money who is scared of paying more tax, they are just hot-footing it out of the country right now. They're putting money in all sorts of tax, not tax dodging, but tax-efficient systems.
They are.
The number of people I've spoken to, elderly people who've saved a bit of money, who are now putting money in trust for the grandchildren because they're frightened of inheritance tax.
But I think the strategy of this government has got it all wrong. Look, we know the benefits bill is too high, and instead of being apologetic about it, she said we're cutting it because we want to get people back into work.
Yeah.
Currently, the benefit system is too attractive for some people who want to get people back into work because of people's mental health. It will help if you've got a job.
Should we talk about this story that's on the front pages of all the papers today? Because, as you know, Andrew Pearce, I'm a little bit at a loss as to why this is an interesting story. This is about Prince Harry.
So he set up a charity called Centre Bali. It's based in Africa. He set it up with the Crown Prince of Lesotho, the country in Centre Bali. It's to help people suffering from HIV and AIDS. As you know, Africa, that is a huge problem. And Princess Diana, back in the 1980s, early 90s, was an extraordinary figure in helping break the stigma over AIDS. Wonder who that is. And use the very press they disdain, we know who that is, to harm people who have the courage to challenge their conduct. She has declared war on Prince Harry and the African prince because she wants to run the charity in Africa for Africans, and she doesn't want it to be a privileged white.
Her statement says, with heavy hearts, we've resigned from our roles as patrons of the organisation until further notice. In support of and solidarity with the Board of Trustees, we've had to do the same. It's devastating. The relationship between the charity's trustees and the chair of the board broke down beyond repair, creating an untenable situation.
And he actually says what's transpired is unthinkable. I don't recall such punchy statements from both sides in a dispute about a charity like this, particularly one involving Prince Harry. Look, I'm often critical of Harry, but this was
really? I hadn't noticed.
But this was a noble attempt to do what he thought his mother would approve of, and there's those lovely images we've been showing on TV, listening on the radio, of Diana in Africa when she was doing all the landmark work.
He's got a lot on, though. He's got Netflix series to make and
Well,
stuff.
he's got a lot on.
Yeah.
It's called Meghan.
Well, let's talk to royal commentator